is on the organization chart inside of TouchStone, as well as how to build good organization strategy. So first I'm going to start with technically how to use the org chart and how to operate the functions. And then I'm going to spend some time talking about how to create a good organization strategy from more of a strategic point of view. And then we're going to end with the system of the week, which is going to be strategic planning, which kind of really goes along with good organization strategy. So last session, we talked about building a good 4 functions list, and this is really the place to start inside of TouchStone. A lot of times people want to jump right to the organization chart because that's kind of more what you're familiar with, and what sometimes that doesn't give you a good thorough view of all of your processes if you jump right to positions and people and what the work that they're doing. So if you haven't done this already, focus some time on your 4 key functions. So think about your process list, build good sub-functions to help organize the processes, pull things you want from the library, go in and fill in what's missing. So add your process titles, spend the time necessary to get kind of a nice picture of what all the processes are. Now, during the building of your 4 functions, don't go in and start documenting all the processes right away. Just have a goal of making a list of everything. And then you'll get this kind of global perspective of what are all the processes that are needed in the business and have them all nicely organized in the 4 key functions. The next step after that would be to come and build your organization chart. So this whole process of building your 4 functions, I mean, I think it's dependent, obviously, on the size of your company, but in my experience, that could take anywhere from, as little as 5 hours to, maybe 20 hours if you're, a $20 million company. So it's not a significant amount of time, and it's really worth the effort of putting that time in initially to build the 4 functions. So this is the organization chart. And the organization chart is different from the 4 functions in that we're talking about people here. On the 4 functions list, we're thinking of subject areas, so categories of work, not necessarily who's doing what, just what is the work. Here, we're now focusing on positions or people. So this is an organization chart with kind of a pretty typical structure. It's got levels or layers, which are the different departments and the different levels within those departments. It's got a pretty common structure, which is marketing and sales here, operations in the middle, admin, finance. So these are typically the 3 main departments inside of any organization. Sometimes you'll have multiple operational departments, depending on the size of your business and also the types of services or what you're producing. Sometimes in sales organizations, the operations department will be very small and the sales and marketing department will be huge because all you do is sell and maybe you're a distributor of something else. Someone's just asking how they can get a playback of the prior webinar. So everyone who's registered should get a recording of the week before's webinar. Last week we had some GoToMeeting technical issues, and so this org strategy webinar is the actual webinar that was supposed to occur last week. In addition to that, all of the current technical training webinars are posted on our website. So you can watch them there, or you should also be emailed a recording. So the organization chart inside of TouchStone is super easy to use. To add a box, you just hit this little plus sign, and then it's called Create Position. You put in the name of the position. You tell TouchStone which box to put it under. So you choose the position to put it under, and you hit Save. So easy as that to add positions. You can move positions around the chart. So if I wanted to move this to another department, I would just right-click it, and then I hover over the position I want it under. So you see how it turns green? Once it's green, you know it's in the right place, and then you just release it. So adding a position is this little plus sign, and then moving a position around is as easy as drag and drop. If you want to delete a position from the chart, you hit this black X. and then you're going to choose the position you want to delete. You'll notice that there's only a few positions here that I'm able to delete, and that's because these are all the ones that are at the bottom of the chart. You can't delete a position that's got positions underneath it or boxes underneath it, because then TouchStone doesn't know what to do with those boxes. So if you want to delete like manager, marketing, and sales that you're seeing in the black here, you have to move these positions underneath it somewhere else, and then this one, once it's at the bottom of the chart, would be available to delete. So I choose the box I want to delete, and then I hit delete, and then it's gone. I can drag the chart around. Just all I'm doing is less mouse clicking, and I can drag it left or right or up and down. You can also zoom. Zoom isn't like perfect, but it does. If your chart's big, it kind of does let you see the chart bigger or smaller. The chart also has two views. We're in tree view right now. But if I wanted to see it in simple view, I'd hit simple view, and then I'd see it in this outline view. For charts that are really big, like they go past the view screen, I think it's always easier to hit it in simple view. So anytime I'm looking at a chart in TouchStone and I can't see the whole thing, just start dragging a little to the left or right or up and down, it's like that big, I immediately go to simple view just because it's kind of easier for my eye to see the positions in the chart. You can also drag and drop it in simple view as well if it goes beyond the bottom of the screen. The charts can be printed with the little printer icon. The printing isn't perfect right now. We're always trying to update and find new technology and tools to make the printing easier. Right now, if you print the chart, it shows you what's going to be on the print page, and you can move it around and print it in pieces if you like, which again isn't ideal. Also, what I've done before is you can take a screenshot or a snippet of the chart and then open it in Microsoft Paint or in even Adobe or a photo editing software, and then you can print the chart inside of that as well. If you want to edit the name of a box on the chart, a position title, you just select that box and then click the title right here on the job description page. So every time you select a box from the chart, it takes you to the job description for that position, and that's where you would edit the title. So I can change the title any way I want here, and then I hit save, and it saves. Underneath the title is what we call the objective for the position, and it's really just a sentence or a phrase, or sometimes multiple sentences, which explains why does this position exist, what is its mission, what is it here for. One thing to remember about deleting positions, if you delete a position and you've built the job description for that position, then the job description is going to be deleted. So here's the job description that I've built for this manager, marketing, and sales. These processes here are all from the 4 functions list. You can't have a process anywhere in TouchStone linked to anything else unless it first lives on the 4 functions list. So how the job descriptions are built is we look over at the 4 functions list and we select the processes that each position is accountable for and link them to that position. And I'm going to be going over this in way more detail in next week's webinar. But just one thing to remember about deleting positions from the org chart is if you delete that box, then you've built the job description, then that job description will be gone. Now all the processes won't be gone because they live on the 4 functions list, and they've just been linked to job descriptions. When you have a position like this one, salesperson, and there's more than one person who fills that position, like in this example I have 4 salespeople, 2 appointment setters. You notice how I have the number here. I don't have 4 separate boxes. And the reason for that is it just becomes redundant because we build the job description for this position, salesperson. All these processes are what the salesperson is accountable for. If you have 4 or 10 people all doing the same work, there's no reason to have 4 boxes with all the same processes on them. Here in account administration is where you can set up users. And if I had 4 salespeople, I could set up 4 user accounts for them and link them all to the salesperson's job description, that one. And they would all have access to those same processes. So here's where we start to kind of implement this with people. And so the need for having 4 of the same position on the org chart, well, that's unnecessary because we link the people to one box. And if you had 4 boxes, it's going to visually make your chart larger, and then it's going to be redundant because you'll just have the same processes on those same positions. So chart is super easy to use. All of these functions kind of tell you exactly what they are, and technically you want to think about the different departments and the different positions. So let's talk about that just for a little bit more. So building good organization strategy is paramount for any successful business, and it's also paramount for a process-dependent business, because we really want to start to see not only what are the positions, but also what is the work that each position is accountable for. So before you would build your organization chart, I think it's a really good idea to have what we call a strategic target, or an objective for your business, a vision, a strategic plan. It doesn't have to be a big, long business plan. It can just be a simple one-page document which articulates where your business is going. So what is your vision for the future? Even if you're a manager on the phone right now, the same kind of principle applies, because you want to think, what is the vision for your department? And then how does that fit into the company's overall vision? This is essential for building a good organization chart, because the organization chart is a picture of that business in the future. So that's why we call it a strategy. It's showing you where the business is going. If you built a chart for just what's happening right now, well, that limits you to what's happening right now, and also the dysfunction that may be happening right now. So when you think about your company into the future and you build the chart as a picture of it, it helps you to see where you're going. And it helps you build processes for the future. So in your strategic target, there should be some simple goals. There should be a sales goal or a revenue goal. There should be profitability goals. So thinking about that first key goal, a sales goal, you want to have some kind of statement that says, by the year 2020, the business will be doing $10 million in sales with a gross profit of 60% and a net profit of 10%. So just with those basic financial goals, we can then start to see what the organization chart needs to look like. So simply with a revenue goal, you can say, okay, how many people am I going to need in the future? What is the structure going to need to be in order to fulfill or be able to maintain that goal? What is my business going to look like when it's $10 million more in revenue? So from that point of view, start thinking about each of the departments and construct the positions and functions within those departments. When you're building your organization strategy or your chart, you want to try to put your entrepreneurial hats on as much as possible. So what I mean is, don't think about people and personalities and who's doing what now and what happened yesterday. Really think about what it's going to need to be like in the future. Don't make decisions on how to structure positions or where to put them on the chart based on people and personalities. We'll marry this with the present situation. There's a way to do that, which I'm going to explain. So for this first initial exercise, really don't think and consider that. Think about what is the best structure for the business. So starting with the sales and marketing department, think about the managerial levels. Think about that new sales goal, that revenue. What's going to be necessary in order for you to produce that goal? The salespeople get new business in the door. This is related to the getting the business function inside of TouchStone. Think about how many salespeople are going to be necessary. Always consider the managerial levels. Every functioning, successful, efficient department needs managers. So there needs to be some kind of key lead or manager above, and perhaps even managers below, depending on how big the business is. Think about your advertising efforts. So there's a difference between lead generation and lead conversion. There's a difference between advertising and sales. Advertising is the work that produces the leads, the qualified leads. So there needs to be people to a certain degree, and automation that makes that happen. Then those leads get handed off to salespeople, and they convert those leads at a certain rate. That conversion rate then tells you what your sales will be, and if you backtrack it all, you can start to think about how many people you're going to need to produce the results that you're looking for. So consider how many salespeople. Do you need appointment setters? Do you need a marketing assistant? What's outsourced from that? So construct this department and then consider, is it going to work to then produce your revenue goals, these new revenue goals in your strategic plan? Then moving to operations. So you've got all of this new revenue coming in, the business is starting to grow, then that then causes the operations department to have to deliver upon those new sales. So whether you're producing a service or a product, the operations department has to be sufficiently structured and enough positions in place to then be able to handle the influx of new sales. So a lot of times in small growing businesses, all this just kind of happens. You know, new sales come in and then suddenly, ooh, we need more people, and it's all this kind of mess of people dependency and urgency. This organization strategy is a way for you to kind of plan that out in advance as best as possible. Decide how many salespeople, the leads they're producing, the new sales that are coming in, and then balance operations with sales. This is one, in my opinion, one of the key reasons that a lot of small businesses aren't successful. They never find that balance between sales and operations. Either there's not enough sales and there's too much people in operations and then the business fails, or there's way too many sales and then the operation fails because they can't satisfy the sales. Then you have profitability issues, you've got cash flow issues, which ends up driving the business the company out of business. So here in operations, think about the profitability of your operations. So as these new sales are coming in, what kind of people are going to be necessary to then efficiently deliver upon those sales, leaving you enough profit in the end to run the business? This is your cost of goods sold area. And what's tricky about that is as sales grow, those cost of sales or cost of goods grow proportionately to the sales. It's a variable cost, so it varies with sales. And if you've done your financial analysis correctly, you can see the percentage of the revenue that it's going to take you to deliver those sales that come in. And if that percentage isn't hit time and time again, that's where you lose money. It's that whole question of, or that thought that comes in is, I've had the best month ever, our sales are through the roof. Well, where's all the profit? Where's all the money? And generally it's lost here in operations, because as that revenue is created, the delivery of it is insufficient. It's money's being lost. So one technique in operations that helps combat this is to think about your hiring. So here you'll notice I've got an entry-level position here, and then I've got the junior position, and then I've got the senior position. The same thing here. I hire people here, I train them up to here, and then they're fully trained senior technicians. So here when I hire them, it's probably costing me a lot of money right here because training costs money. Then as I develop and teach them the processes, they're profitable right here, hopefully. And then they're maybe even more than profitable up here. So this training method costs money. It costs time. But what accelerates it is processes, actually having documented training. So I think one of the fallacies a lot of businesses live under is that they can go and find this person right here every time. You know, I'm going to be able to hire senior experienced technicians. I may have processes, I may not, and they're just going to go in and they're going to deliver our products and services profitably every time. Well, this isn't the case. You people make mistakes, and you can't always find fully experienced people here. The best way to grow your business and have it scalable is to be able to have a training program, have a training plan, where you know you hire people here, and they move here, and then they move here. And you know how long it takes and how much money it takes. And you know it so well that when they get here, when they're from here to here and they're not profitable here, then they're out. You don't spend time trying to train and retrain and living with mistakes because you're so desperate for the work to get done. So think about this operations department. What are the products and services that you're offering? What are the layers or levels that you can have within the organization? What would this entry-level position look like? What are the processes, or what would the middle or the lead? Even if you just had 2 levels here, that would be better than nothing. And does that fit into your financial plan? So back to your strategic target or your vision. Think about the revenue coming in. When you need to hire people, if you're going to move them from here to here, how long does that take and how much money does it cost? And this all becomes a part of a way that you can sketch out your vision through the organization chart. Then sales and marketing department. So this is the admin finance area. This is like the overhead for the business, all the support for the business. This is the running the business function. So within this area, you need to think about HR, you need to think about finance, bookkeeping, CFO accountabilities, admin, reception, IT, all the support processes, all the support people. I think sometimes overhead people get kind of a bad rap because it's considered overhead, like we don't have enough money for overhead. Well, these positions here, all those functions I just mentioned, support the rest of the company. Put simply, to the degree that these people have to be running around, reporting, figuring out what they sold and how they sold it, answering the phone, doing paperwork, dealing with their own HR, to the degree that they have to do all that is the same degree that they are less profitable, less efficient. So think about this department as support. So how can we support the rest of the company to make them more efficient? There's some great human resource functions or processes inside of the library. I think this is an area where businesses have a lot of trouble, especially when they're growing. You want to have really good ways of recruiting and hiring and training into your business. Bad hiring mistakes, I can't remember the statistic. It's enormous, though. It just costs so much money. This whole level idea helps with recruiting and hiring and training and productivity as well. So you hire people to one position and then you move them to the next. And you don't throw them into a senior position and expect them to be successful. You don't even know if they're going to be successful. Also within good organization strategy, like I mentioned in sales and marketing, you want to think of the layers of management. So starting here at the top, in your TouchStone account, this is the first box you'll always see, board of directors. Some people want to delete that, and if ever I hear that, I always try to encourage them not to. Every corporation, every business has this, whether you acknowledge it or not, has this entity called the shareholders. Whether you have board meetings or a board of directors or not, this idea still exists. Now in small businesses, it might be the owner, but you are the shareholder. So consider yourself the board of directors. Consider yourself the shareholder. Because you as that shareholder, what you're interested in, the primary thing you should be interested in is the profitability of your asset, the amount of dividends that it's giving you, the value for you owning it, not working in it, not the people, none of that, the value of that asset. So having that box and considering what work you need to do and even thinking about it helps you see that perspective. It helps you wear that hat as the shareholder. Because in the end, this asset's all that matters, and whether you can sell it or not, or whether it's earning money for you or not. Not for doing any work inside of it, but purely owning it. Then below that, we generally have a president, general manager, CEO. So this person takes the vision of the shareholder, this person or entity that's interested in creating the asset and getting money from that asset, and implements it technically throughout the business. So the president works more. They do strategic things, but they work to implement the vision throughout the company. They then manage the key departments, getting new business in the door, delivering upon the products or service, running the business, all the support systems. So they work with the managers below to then implement the vision and technically run the day-to-day operations of the business. This level here is super important for any business, this level of management. So once you've built out your future chart, like I've talked about, really test the key numbers of it. Put in salaries for every box on your chart. 4 salespeople, 2 appointment setters. List those out. Add up the salaries. Put it back into your spreadsheet, into your profitability or your basic budget. Figure out if that works. Do you have the profitability necessary at that level with all those positions? If not, how much more sales are you going to need to have? Or what do you need to cut in order to create a level of profitability that works? These people up here want to see net profit. That's what they want to see. They want to see that bottom line. After everything is paid for, what's left at the end of the day? So think about what a good net profit is for your business. And even put that into the bottom of your spreadsheet and see how everything else has to play out in order for you to get that net profit. Inside of our strategic target development process, there's a video about this, and there's also like a white paper that's written about it, about how to consider what a good net profit is and then how to kind of build a strategic target which helps you to get that. So test it out. See if the numbers work. Then start to think about a hiring plan. So if you've built a future chart for real, all these positions aren't full. Like there's people doing work in a lot of them, but some of them are future positions. So think about how you're going to hire as the business grows. So consider the balance between sales and marketing and operations. How does sales need to go up, and then when do you need to start to hire? How to keep that balance and remain profitable. And it's tricky. I mean, all of you know who have gone through building a small business into a medium-sized business. There's a balancing act that occurs. I mean, unless you have a ton of working capital that you borrowed from somewhere, or you just happen to be lucky enough to have all that money, you can use your working capital to strike the balance, which costs you, of course, in the end, but it's a way to grow the business to a point where it's sustainable. But a lot of small business owners don't have that working capital. So you've got to juggle with cash flow this growth of your business and making decisions about when to hire more income-producing people and when to then hire the service people so they'll be trained up in enough time in order to deliver upon all the sales. Very tricky. This organization chart obviously helps with that. Having a good budget or financial plan helps with that. But the number one thing that helps the most with that is having documented processes, because it gives you the confidence. Like I know if I hire a salesperson here that I've got advertising processes in place that are creating qualified leads. I know that I've got a good sales process that I can plug salespeople into, and that even at their worst, they're going to convert at 50%. Then I know that I've got trained positions in place, or at least training processes there where I can grow these people up to profitability, and I can handle the new sales coming in. So once you've tested out your chart, you're kind of happy with the numbers, then start marrying the present situation with this future vision. So that is taking what's happening now and making it fit into your vision for the business. And this is totally possible. I think so a lot of times businesses, owners, and managers feel overwhelmed because you've got so much people dependency. Like you hire one person in to do sales, and then suddenly you need them in service, and so they're going over there, and then they're going out in the field, but then what happened to all the sales, and then they're answering the phone, and you may have really great superstar people that are spread across the organization chart, just filling in wherever they need to fill in. It's difficult for that position because being constantly interrupted and being at not cross purposes, but multiple purposes is not efficient. If its focus is selling, the minute you pull that person away from selling and you put them into service or answering the phone or doing reports, then their focus is changed. and it has a psychological and also a productivity effect. So think about the current people in your organization and start plugging them into the boxes for what they do. So if you've got a person who does work all over the organization or within multiple departments, rather than creating a box on the chart and calling it Bob, say, and putting all the work that Bob does on that position, think about implementing him into your new organization strategy. So Bob might be a salesperson, he might also be the warehouse manager, and he may also be the bookkeeper. Well, that's unfortunate for Bob, but maybe that's the reality of the situation, that he does work in every single one of those positions. So put the names into the boxes for what everyone's doing now. One thing to consider, or one thing that I think is a rule that's not to be broken, is you don't want to have two people's names in a key position that should only have one person. So clearly 2 or 4 people can be here, because that's the same person doing the same work. But you can't have 2 or 3 people here as the manager. You can't even say, okay, I've got this great salesperson, I promoted him to the manager, but as the president, I'm also doing that. So we're both doing it. Or he's not doing it well enough, so I'm doing some of it. So if you have any situations like that where you've promoted someone kind of beyond their capabilities, then use the new organization strategy as a way of kind of settling it out, moving them back. Put your name in this box. Wait until the processes are documented, until you've got more of a training in place, and then try to move that person back into that position or hire this position. So make adjustments like that when it's possible. And it might be hard to reverse your decision, but we're talking about the success of your business. So make it understandable to all the employees that you're trying to reorganize to make things more efficient, and so set the business up to grow successfully. You also want to think about this person, if it exists, that's wearing too many hats or is at cross purposes or cross functions throughout the organization. So if you truly do have a position or a person that is split between departments, 3 departments, even 2, if it's possible, think about how to reorganize their work. Now's a new time to look at it. You've got these new positions, these new processes for each position that they're going to be doing. If it's possible to move them out just into one department, then do it. Any questions before I move on? No? Okay. So in the end, what I'm saying here is that the building of your organization chart in TouchStone is good, but you can take it way beyond that. You can start to use the chart as a strategy tool, as a way of planning out where your business is going, as a way of reorganizing inefficiencies that are existing, as a way of seeing clearly, do you have at least a managerial presence or position within each department? Do you have the right person in that box? And then ultimately, as a hiring tool. So when you start to think about what position are we going to hire first, second, third, as the business starts to grow, put these little hire dates in. I think they're really helpful on the face of the chart. You just put this right into the title of the position. You can always put it in the objective. I think it's kind of nice to see it here. Think like quarters of the year. Don't think months and days of the year. When you're broadly planning things out, try to think of the quarter of the year. When you're doing budgeting even, other than your annual budget, do your budget in quarters if you're going out 2 or 3 years. Especially if you've got, there's a cyclical nature to your business. And think about not just quarters, but those cycles. And this helps do kind of rough visionary financial planning without getting into the huge amount of detail. I think the detail is what kind of crushes people when they're trying to think of budgets that go beyond a year. So have these little hire dates. Then based on the hire dates, use the chart to prioritize your process development. So once you've done your 4 functions in your org chart, the next step, which we're going to talk more about next week, is to create all the job descriptions for every position. So this is done very simply by going to this add existing process, looking over at the 4 functions and going link, 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 and then you've got these nice little job descriptions in less than 5 minutes if you've done your 4 key functions list. Once you've got the job descriptions built and you know that you want to hire a salesperson based on your strategic org chart as well as your budget, you know you want to hire this position first, then systematize or document all of these processes first. You can put them in order of priority, start to delegate them out, and have the goal of fully documenting this whole position before you would then hire it. So this position, before Q4 2016, this will be fully documented. If this is an issue of growing your own talent from within and kind of being able to train well, then document this position first. Start from the bottom up, then do this one, then do this one. And then you've got this whole training plan. And you can even look at these entry-level positions and start to say, how much time would it take to train an efficient average person on this process, this one, and this one? Add all that time up, times it by the amount of money that you're going to have to pay this person, plus the percentage for the management training costs, and that gives you the cost of an entry-level service technician. That's a great number to have, right? Because then they move up to here, and you can figure out what the cost of this is. And then ultimately you understand, if you found a good average person, what it would cost you to fully train someone from the bottom up to here. So let's talk about the process of the week. So in my opinion, when you're any kind of business plan or any kind of business that's serious about growing and getting to the next level, there are 3 main strategic tools, strategies that you need to have. There's many more, but these 3 I think are paramount to being able to have a successful strategy for your business. One is a strategic target, a basic plan for where your business is going, your vision. 2 is a good organization strategy. And then 3 is a budget or a financial plan, a profitability plan. You can change the word if you don't like the word budget. And this is a rough draft of what your financial goals are, what your expenses are going to be, what your profitability goals are, and then as the business grows, how those increase and change. There's a great budgeting template here in Running the Business in the library. It's got, it's just a basic template for budgeting. Simple. You go quarter by quarter, put in the expenses. It even has a little work plan in it for if you use QuickBooks, how to export the information from QuickBooks, your chart of accounts, and then put it into the spreadsheet. Over here in Guiding the Business, we have 2 kind of strategic documents to help with a strategic plan or a vision. There's this first one called Strategic Target Development. So this is in the library that you can go pull down if you don't have it already. This kind of gives you a step-by-step for how to create a strategic target. This isn't, this isn't a business plan. This isn't in a huge amount of detail. This is something that comes together pretty quickly if you follow the steps, and it becomes a really active, alive document which helps you to see your future vision. There was a recent blog post that's on our website now. If people haven't seen this, strategic planning. It goes into why it's important to have a strategic target, and it also talks in more detail about strategic planning and how to use the processes in TouchStone to do that. So there's just more information on strategic planning. Again, this is on our website. But simply put, if you go through and follow the work plan, go through these steps, it shows you then how to use these uploaded files. There's an overview document. That's that white paper that I was talking about. There's a client sample here, so what it should look like in the end. There's a template. This template is also with a form down here. Is basically a series of questions that you answer. So you go through, you can even put this into edit mode and do it right here if you want in TouchStone. So you answer the questions, which then help you kind of shape up your strategic target. What are your sales goals? What are your direct costs going to be? What are you going to spend on sales and marketing? What are your fixed costs? What is your net profit goal? So you go through and simply answer these questions and then take all the answers and fold them into a narrative document. And there's an example right here. The narrative is important. Strategic targets shouldn't just be, a series of questions and answers. You want to write it up into a narrative because then you kind of see the story. And the story you're telling is your vision. And that vision, that story, then helps enroll everyone in your business. It influences everything. It influences your organization strategy, your budget, your people's morale, your recruiting and hiring. This is your story, and you want to get people on your bus going down the road. If you don't have a story, you don't have a direction, you don't know where you're going, you don't know who you're going to get. So this, if you create this document and then implement it and use it, it becomes a tremendous strategy tool that every great entrepreneur needs to have. This next tool from the library called Strategic Planning allows you to take your strategic target and go through a step-by-step process of implementing it. So here in Strategic Planning, there's some work plans in here which kind of give you, set the stage for this, how many meetings you're going to have, because the meetings then show what you've accomplished between meetings, what the agendas will be, how to track. There's a little more on creating a vision, a strategic plan. There's a little video. This form down here is kind of the heart of this. And it's really simple. If you're thinking this is simple, it is. And it's meant to be because this isn't that, it shouldn't be that hard. If it's complicated, no one's going to do it. So you take your annual priorities from your strategic target. So the strategic target might be for like 2 or 3 years out there. You want to think, what are your annual priorities to move you 1 year closer to that strategic target? Think about your budget. What are the financial goals? What are the hiring goals from your organization chart? What are your process development goals based on your hiring goals and your hiring plan? What are the tactical things that need to be accomplished in order for you to reach that annual goal? So think of the nuances of all of it. Think about the sales and marketing area, the operations area. What are the goals that need to be accomplished in order for you to reach your strategic target in 3 to 5 years? What are the annual goals? Put the annual goals into the spreadsheet. Then think quarterly. So you're breaking it down from there. So we're going from a 5-year goal to the annual goal to the quarterly goal. Think about what needs to happen in the first quarter. What needs to happen in the second and the third. You might then use this to delegate out, because if you know your quarterly goals are to develop a new sales process that will allow you to convert leads at 75%, and you know you need to then work with the sales manager or the sales department to then what are the actions you need to take on that. If you want to implement new advertising activities, if you want to implement a entry-level technician training program based on your organization chart, what are your goals there? So break these into the annual goals, and then each meeting, this is called the meeting rhythm or the agenda, is to discuss these quarterly goals. And clearly you would think, okay, monthly what is going to happen, so then what needs to happen every week. So break it down, and then in the end you're kind of tracking this on a quarterly basis. Here on the home screen, you have the ability to use all this inside of TouchStone. So if I go to the President's Control Panel here, here's that strategic planning process. Here's the budgeting one as well. So if I'm the President, I go to my Control Panel, I call up my strategic planning process, I'll go down to this agenda form, and here would be all my goals. So I fill these out, I'm tracking them, I'm monitoring them, and then I save it. Next week when I go back to strategic planning, I go here to the completed folder, there it is, I call it up, and I add more to it and do the next quarter. After each quarter is accomplished, you can look back and say what you accomplished for the year. Any questions about that? No? Everyone's being really quiet today. That's fine. So just to recap, Start by fleshing out your 4 functions if you haven't already. Then go build your organization chart. Think about organization strategy and all the principles. Think about departments. Think about people. Go and create your strategic target if you haven't already. If you're a manager or an employee on the line right now, go ask the CEO, where's the strategic target? It's a good thing to have, and we all need it. Develop a vision for your department, if that's all you can get. Construct the organization chart anew. So if you've already done your organization chart in TouchStone, and based on what we said here today, you want to change it, go and change it. I have a question. It was a compliment, not a question. So there's a few questions here that I'm going to answer when we get off the phone, too. I'll send these people emails because they're not really related to what we're talking about today. But I just want you to know that I see those, and I'll answer them in emails. So build out this organization chart. Then that's going to set you up great for next week when we talk about job descriptions. So once your chart's built, your 4 functions list is built, then it's the time to go and build all the job descriptions. So this is the way to get TouchStone organized in its entirety before you would even start the documentation. Build the 4 functions list, get you a global picture of everything, build your organization chart, all the people for the future and now, then build all the job descriptions. And that's done by linking the processes from here to here, basically. And this closes the loop between the 4 functions and the org chart. Once that's done, this org chart becomes this beautiful picture of all of your positions and everything that every position is accountable for. Practically speaking, these job descriptions are very practical. They're not hiring documents. They don't describe qualities. They don't describe even characteristics. All that's about hiring. These are everyday, getting it done, efficient processes, training processes. So once everything's linked from here to here, then it's all about the documentation. It's all about getting each of these processes done one at a time. So next week we're going to talk about how to build the job descriptions in TouchStone, which is pretty straightforward. And then we're going to talk more about how to use job descriptions in TouchStone. Job descriptions, I've been a manager for a long time. They are the paramount management tool. They are the essential management tool for every manager. Because a manager's job is to manage processes by which people get results and to train those people on those results. So the job descriptions are everything. They're your manual for that. They're your agenda form for that. They're the way to be successful as a manager. So we're going to talk a lot more about that all next week. So thanks for coming, everybody. Bye-bye.